Hi guys, Luton here, and I'm going to be talking about Battlefield Hardline in its beta stage. Now I'm also going to be making another video talking about my experience during the testing period and the event that I went to in San Francisco at EA. That'll be a separate video, but I want to talk about that specifically because there's a few things I want to talk about there. Also straight away I also want to say, if you haven't seen Jack Fragg's couple of videos that he's posted out, go check those because I think those are the best ones that I've seen in terms of breaking down those specific elements. But when it actually comes to the gameplay itself for the beta and how I feel we're going forward into the actual release of the game, I'm sad to say that those community elements that are causing issues are there, and they were obviously gonna be there. But it does disappoint me to see, almost within the first hour of play, to see catastrophically game-breaking issues from the players, not from the game, from the players. And as I say, you know, like I said in the last video, it's obvious to anyone that this is a critical problem. I've actually started writing a script for another video, which is going to be looking at how did we get to this point? How did we get to a point where online quality of player is so degraded compared to what it used to be? And it's actually, now that I've started sort of going back and researching, it's actually really interesting looking at kind of how we've transitioned to where we are right now. And I've had many discussions with other people about this in the last week, and you know, I think we're at the point of no return. I think this is just how it is now, and you either have to just suck it up or change the way that you play, and I think that's a really sad position to be in. So for example, the first 6 to 7 games that I played last night were total steamrolls. I was actually on the team which was wiping the others out, and even though at one point I changed team, we were unable to sort of make that transition. And it was, you know, you just couldn't make any headway. Then I started live streaming, and again the same issue continued. I went into another I changed server, hoping to get a better experience for my live stream, because I didn't want it to be how I had been with those sort of private games. And it was the same deal again, just like we did 6 games in a row, just total steamrolls. You know, it was ridiculous. Like, some people may say, well, okay, it was because people were new and they didn't understand the game mode. But for the love of God, I mean, literally it's a case of grab money, take money to base, and they just couldn't sort of get to grips. But they weren't even putting up a fight, so the argument of they kind of didn't understand the game mode didn't really play out to me, because they weren't putting up a fight, they weren't moving very well, they were staying bunched together. Once you put a bit of fire, they wouldn't move up. At one point, they were just camping on top of the roof above the objective to rack the kills, and you know, they were just sort of sitting all up above the roof. You've probably seen this start to happen already. It's become, you often find you have 4 or 5 people up there, and when you only have so many per team, that's actually a large amount of people to have up on the roof right there. So it's a real concern that from literally straight out of the gate, we're seeing these fundamental community issues which plague online FPS now, and it concerns me greatly that this is the kind of experience people will be getting. Now I should say positively, as we went further into the evening, as I have always said, if you stay with a server, people come and go, and hopefully the gameplay will improve, and it did. People dropped out, other people came on board, and the server started to play out better. We lost a couple of games, we won a couple of games, and the players were fighting much more. There was much more of a kind of inclination towards, you know, when people were having a bit of money, go and steal it back again, rather than just you know, let's grab all the money straight away, bam, win the game. Because some of the games we played were over in literally a couple of minutes sometimes, because our team was so pro at like just running in, grabbing all the cash, run back, bam, game over. And so the game can be over really, really quickly, yet again, if the other team don't get their act together and actually do something, instead of just sitting around holding their dicks all the time, because that's what they were doing, just sitting there doing nothing. And it's like, if they just got their act together and actually got into the game, they'd have had a much better experience, and it would have been a much better experience for everybody else overall. So that was a worry and interesting. One of my favourite, and almost it was like a beautiful moment last night when it actually sort of 100% confirmed my worst fears, was when somebody asked in the chat, and he said this in the chat whilst I was live streaming, and he said, guys, please stop playing the objective, I want to get more kills. And I just was like, really? Did you really just say that? Please stop playing the objective, I want to get more kills. And I said, that's a quote that's going in a video, seriously. Just what the hell? I mean, what? That's where we are right now. We're at a point right now where people will actually ask to stop playing the objective because they want to get kills. I mean, what the hell? seriously. But anyway, so leaving that sort of thing aside, let's just think about the actual gameplay, how it plays out overall. I did do Heist and Blood Money last night. Yeah, they played out really good. They played out really well. They were kind of fast, fun. The trouble is, as I say, if you don't have a team that stacks up, then it literally is a case of just ferrying cash. And there were several times on the stream where people were like, this looks tedious, I'm not sure I want to get it, because of the fact that the teams weren't, it wasn't the game, it was the fact that the teams weren't putting up any of a fight. So I was just literally going do 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 do, get some money, go back to base, do 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 do, and I was just literally going back and forth like this, and I didn't even have to engage any targets because they were just, you know, they had a full team, but they were just like nowhere to be seen. They were on a roof or they were camped out somewhere, and they were just not interested in engaging in the game whatsoever, which, as I've always said, I find weird. Like, why would you join an objective game and then do nothing? Like, why don't you just go play TDM? I mean, everybody said that to another person before now, so that was weird. But yeah, as I say, I'll get into some of the more specific game elements, but I wanted to talk more about the experience of the overall game itself today, rather than some of the actual mechanical elements. And as I say, it was just, it has potential. It has potential in that if you can get a good game where there's objective players, it plays really well. If you have a game which is a public game and it's full of like public players playing the way they play, it's not good, and that's the real problem. Heist was the same, pretty much. Heist was good fun. It's basically kind of like Rush, where you've got the briefcase, you've got to kind of escape and you've got to stop them doing it. So it's a semi-variation on Rush. And again, it plays out as you would expect Rush to play. It's generally people that are too scared to move versus the team which will just literally kick your ass. The way that we played it, again, our team were just terrified. They were all sitting there going like, I don't want to go forward, I'm so scared, and like they just wouldn't move up, they wouldn't engage, they wouldn't sort of push to the objectives, they just wouldn't do anything. They were like statues, and again, it's very frustrating. Like I've said, it has like an amplified impact on you as a player, because if those people are moving forward and engaging targets, it gives the enemy team a distraction. It gives them different targets to aim at. But if they won't move forward and they're too scared to do so, and you're trying to really play the objective hard, all it does is it makes you like the priority target for the entire enemy team. So every time you move up, you're just bam, on the ground, on the ground, on the ground, and you can't get anywhere. In fact, I resorted to kind of like flanking and trying to like weaken them, because my team weren't doing that either. And I thought, well, at least if I can get around them and try and put them down a little bit, then it's going to help the rest of my guys move up and do that. But again, what happens is, even though you do that, they still don't move forward. So essentially just nothing happens. And that's kind of really frustrating. I still don't know what the solution is to this problem, but it persists. It's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem at release, and I just don't really know what to tell you. That's where we are at right now with online FPS gaming. And it does make me kind of want to take a step back. A lot of people have been saying that PlanetSide 2 has improved greatly in terms of the system changes there, the mechanics, and actually I think me and my squad are probably going to try a little bit of PlanetSide 2, because apparently that is actually becoming much better in terms of tactical gameplay. Of course, also I have armor, but I think I'm starting to gravitate away towards other things because of the way the game plays out in terms of public players, and it's really disappointing that that happens, because there's a lot of potential with Battlefield Hardline to actually play out in a much more tactical way. Some of the changes that they have made in terms of, you know, improving the game, like less screen shake, that's great for it. You know, the fact that they have less grenades, the fact that they have a more reduced weapon loadout system and things like that, all those things making it kind of much tighter, more specific and more focused, of course, on the infantry gameplay. Again, the amount of focus on transport vehicles, that's really good, because it means people are pushing around the map, or people should be pushing around the map, but again, they're not, and that's what's so irritating. Is like, even when the game gives them the tools, they still don't do it, and that's the issue. It's the players, not the game. But it has potential. There's some other game modes that you guys haven't seen yet, which I won't mention, but there are some other game modes which are more tactical, and again, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, but it's very dependent on the players. I mean, you can make a tactical game mode, but if the players don't play it in a tactical way, then it's you know, it's meaningless. So, you know, a little bit of a disappointing start for me there, and I think the beta really helped to highlight the thing that I really wanted to know most of all, which was how people were going to play the game. And as I say, disappointing, really. And I don't want to be down, because, you know, I actually I like the feel of the game. I played it last night. I didn't get bored as such, even though we're playing the same map. And I'd imagine with multiple different maps, it's going to keep that interestingness, and, you know, with DLCs, etc., etc. But, you know, let's be honest, it's not a style jump forward in terms of advancement for the game from Battlefield 4. It's very much a kind of like sideways movement rather than a forward movement. So they've kind of tweaked and adjusted, and of course there's the whole deal where the CTE is actually going to play into the game and they're going to learn from that. Something that I said to them at the event was, you know, look, you guys really can't drop the ball here. The release of Battlefield 4 was so bad. If you release this and it's not in a playable state, it's going to severely have a massive damage on you guys. And it seems like hopefully they've improved that and they've listened. I mean, it's going to release with a faster tick rate. It's got all-around improvements in terms of the mechanics and playability. Loads of things that they've listened to us on that. So yeah, it's looking good in terms of the actual game itself. But it just means that people have got to stand up and actually just get to grips with the game. And right now, I'm very concerned that they're just not going to. It's going to be a case of 1 out of 10 games is the one that you enjoy. So we'll just have to see how it plays out. Let me know your thoughts. I know you guys have been playing the beta as well. What do you feel? How have your games been? Have they just been constant steamrolls? Have they been a really tight, struggling, interesting battle? You know, what do you think? How have they been? More from me on the way, guys. I'm going to be breaking down some different elements, but I wanted to give you my sort of physical, emotional thoughts about the game at this point. Obviously, as well, last thing to say, this is not the full release. We're not playing with the full complement of the community and the players that are actually going to play the game, but just from playing the beta for a solid 5 hours. So I just, you know, that's where I am right now. Okay, more to come very much, guys. If you want to support me in the channel, always drop a like, helps me out so much. Put a comment below, and I'll see you next time for more Battlefield Hardline.